Hello, and welcome to Why I Love Warhammer, the series where I go into an unscripted ramble regarding why I love something in this hobby. And on this episode, it's the Grey Knights. The Grey Knights were actually my second faction I got into post getting back into the game at the start of 8th edition, so my third army overall. I went for Grey Knights because I wanted a hyper elite army with a low model count, and I wanted something that was very psychic heavy. I'd been losing a lot as Necrons, and most of my losses were basically because psychic was messing me over. So I wanted something really psychic focused to kind of get back at them. So that's why I chose the Grey Knights. Created my fantasy list, which ended up being 30 paladins, led by Castellan Crow, Mr. Garen Crow. And that's the model I've got here to start going through the models I love. But I think what's cool with the Grey Knights is that they are insanely detailed, so you can really give them your time and energy to make them look really special. And also where they sit in the lore, that they are kind of the absolute anti-chaos. If you're saved by Grey Knights, you are not saved. You're just meeting your end at the hands of the Grey Knights. The rivalry between the Grey Knights and the Space Wolves, again, adds a lot of flavour to both factions. The idea of Imperial and Imperial having it in for each other and fighting a lot. Again, as well as being a good story in of itself, what it allows for is more settings and reasons for a Grey Knight, for two Imperial players to fight against each other, because there are reasons for for the armies to fight each other. It's kind of necessary given the type of setting and the type of game we're playing here. But also I like the idea that the Geneseed for the Grey Knights comes from the Emperor himself, as though like the Primarch for the Grey Knights is the Emperor. It's why, even though the Warhammer website will classify Grey Knights as a type of Space Marine, I view them as a bit separate. I enjoy the characters as well. I like the Kaldor Drago, I think is very interesting, and he had this entire storyline where he went to the Warhammer Fantasy end times to try and stop them happening and didn't quite work. That's mind-blowing to me, and is the level of ridiculousness I want from this game. But my actual favourite character from the Grey Knights has to be Castellan Crow. I don't just say that because I have the old model of his as well as the newer model of his with all the details. I love him. I love his interactions with that sword. The sword that's consistently talking to him, trying to get him to fall to chaos. And Crow is the only Grey Knight who is deemed strong enough to be able to withstand the sword's constant nagging, constant influence. And given that no Grey Knight has ever fallen to chaos, it shows just how exemplary Castellan Crow is. I think that he is just an absolutely phenomenal character, and I love having him as a model. He's one of my favourite Grey Knights. He's one of my favourite models that I own. Certainly my favourite Grey Knight, and just really belongs in any top list for favourite models. Love this guy to pieces. And he's got the sword, and he's got the gunner in his arm. I'm always a fan of the gun arms. Covered in purity seals, of course he is. The purity seal is there to help fend off against chaos. And again, that banner, I'll be honest, my banner is not painted as well as that one. I've got a huge respect for people who can paint banners well. Okay, the paladins. This is what I've got 30 of. I give as many of them flamethrowers as I can, and I give as many of them hammers as I can. I love giving them hammers. I think they're really detailed models. I love the way they look. I love the accessories, and I love flamethrowers. I think these are really cool models. They're good, stocky guys, still firstborn, and they're just really cool sculpts. And you could phone it in with Grey Knights. You could just spray them grey, and you could just spray them grey and then paint, and then just liquor paint on the weapons. But I do think they're far richer for painting in all that detail. I think that's really fascinating. And with a pseudo dry brush, you can get the lettering to come up really clearly. I think that's just really good with the Grey Knights. And yeah, like I say, I've got 30 of these things. I think they're just fascinating models. I love having them. Caldor Drago, just really cool model. I love the sword and shield. I love how crazy he gets at being trapped in the warp and as leader of the Grey Knights. Glorious model. Grandmaster Voldus, I think this one is. I got this guy as well. I didn't paint him. He was given to me by someone who was moving away from Grey Knights. I love his hammer. I love his gun. I love that stern expression he's got. And again, the just whole Grey Knight aesthetic with that beautiful silver grey armor with all of those really high detail high detail engravings in the armor. I think they're really beautiful models, and I think that if you can give them the time and energy they deserve, you get a really beautiful looking army. Just classic strike squad, your classic troops choice. I think they do form a good backbone for the for a Grey Knights army. And I also like how their helmets are a different color. I think it just adds a little bit more character to the faction having a different helmet color, especially when you can easily paint the bodies to look not that much different from being raw sprue. Having an extra color for the helmet does kind of demonstrate that these have been painted up and you've given them the love and attention that they deserve. And again, these guys have a lot of detail on them, but not as much as the other models, so it makes sense for them to be this battle line choice. I think they just work really well. I love how this guy has a stabbed orc head there. And the flamethrower. I love the hammers. I really like models that wield hammers and axes, just those big bludgeoning, big heavy weapons. I think are really cool. And yeah, and the guys who can dual wield swords as well, like a sword with a gun on the hand. I think that's just a fascinating build, a really cool set of weaponry. Again, same deal here. More battle line choices, more really good weapons. I love the flamers. So cool. And again, for a hyper elite army, these guys are just worth having. Again, more of that melee focus, but with the flamer, I think just really interesting looking models. I love the detail on them. The books on the shoulder pad pauldrons, I think those are really fascinating. And the way the backpacks are done on these models does make it look like you have got swords in your back. Is kind of like ready to just take out more swords. And that's really fascinating. Also interesting is that they don't have any scabbards, so those swords are always out. They are always ready to fight, and that's something that I think adds a lot of character to this faction as well. The Terminators, like the Paladins, but not just as detailed as the Paladins, just as fascinating. Same armor, just different weapon loadout. Just beautiful models, just worthy of a lot of respect. See what I was saying before about the troops choices. Really cool models. It's hyper detailed, but not as hyper detailed as the Terminators. Brilliant weapons, and again, those swords are always out. They're always about to start fighting. Again, the flamers and the guns are really cool as well. Land Raider, I love Land Raiders. The fact that Grey Knights have their own, and this one's got like special things just for Grey Knights to put onto it. I just think it's a really cool, just a really cool. Really cool vehicle. Okay, this is the last one from this. It's a shorter video than normal because trying to isolate Grey Knight specific models. I thought it was worth doing that just to give them their time to shine, but also there weren't so many that I felt I could put into the video. But the Nemesis Dread Knight, I think, is an underrated model. Gets a lot of jokes about being called like a baby carrier, which you kind of get. But to me, what this thing looks like is the end of Aliens, when Ripley, Sigourney Weaver's character, adorns that construction gear, finds the alien queen, rescues the child, get away from her, you expletives deleted. That's what this reminds me of. It's like that, but what if one arm was a gun and one arm was wielding a massive sword? That's what this reminds me of. It's like a hybrid between a construction suit, a battle suit, a dreadnought, and a knight. It's a phenomenal model, and the idea of it running like this, where you've got the guys moving in the middle, and that movement is translating to what the rest of it does. It's kind of demonstrating the skill involved in, he's still got to be a combat master, and you can see in this the sword arm here matches his sword arm, and this gun arm matches his gun arm. He's very clearly controlling it. So yeah, I think this is just a really underrated model. I think it gets a lot more hate than it deserves because I love this thing, and I think people should. I feel like if people could see it more as the suit from the end of Aliens rather than a baby carrier, I think people might respect it a lot more, and maybe they'd love it as much as I do. I don't think they'd love it as much as I do, but one can hope. So, kind of coming to the end of the video here. Thank you very much for watching along. Sorry it was shorter than normal, but like I say, it's one that there weren't quite as many models to choose from. But yeah, why do I love Grey Knights? A beautiful hyper elite army that with a lot of detail, you can really give them a lot of love. If you want to drop a comment down below, I'm going to ask a comment question of the day. What do you think of the Nemesis Dreadnought? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Why not? And if you want to give this video a like, I'd really appreciate it. If you want to drop me a subscribe for more why things in this hobby are brilliant, it'd be really good too. I've got a link to a Patreon in the description if you wanted to support me there. And with that, I hope you're having a really good day, and I will see you next time.